Hello there, gamers everywhere. I'm Swippy92 and I'm here with a review video, you could call it, I guess. It's a Swordsman video, but we'll be taking a look at some of the Steam reviews that I've seen. Some of them are positive, some are negative, but I wanted to look at both sides here. If you know anything about my channel, you might have noticed I have a few Swordsman VR videos up. And, well, it's evident that I do like the game. But I was curious to think, how is the Swordsman on Steam is? I mean, the reviews, that is. Not everyone leaves a review, so it's not exactly... This doesn't exactly represent what everyone is thinking about the game, but I just wanted to get a look at what it is. And the latest reviews are mixed, but overall it's 70% something positive. So the game is still in the clear, if you want to call it that. Let's take a look at the first reviews. These are two negative ones, as you can see. Let's get top one first here. I really can't seem to get behind this game. It's got the right idea, but in its current state, with the way combat plays out, I can't recommend it. And yeah, fair enough. This was posted on the 1st of July, which is after the Advanced Combat update came out. I would have liked to see a more detailed explanation of what he didn't like, but alright, it didn't work for him, fair enough. The next review here is cool game, but horrible hit points. Armor overlaps weak spots on enemies and hits sometimes just slide off enemies. Kicks can easily kill you, and walking into enemy swords without them swinging will do ton of damage. Swords will glitch inside enemies and will sometimes face forwards out of your hands. That last sentence, yes, that is a annoying bug. I agree with that one. I totally agree with that one. It didn't happen the last time I played, but yes, it is there, and it can happen here and there. Sometimes even frequently, but for the most part, I don't get the bug. Now, as for horrible hit points, I'm not sure what he means by horrible hit points. Does it mean that he doesn't have enough health, maybe? Or is it the something else? Because as you can increase your health, you can, I guess in easier difficulties, I think it will take about 3 hits to kill you in easier difficulties if you have progressed your health up to 200, which is the maximum without having the Solace boss sword. But with the sword, I think you get about 235 health. And heavier armor will reduce the damage you take, so that is also something to check out. His other point is armor overlaps weak spots on enemies and hits sometimes just slide off enemies. Isn't that the point of armor, really? That feels like that is the point of armor, to actually overlap weak spots and make it so that the strikes slide off. I get where it's coming from, but part of the game is to find the weak spots when you're playing with armor physics. So find the weak spots and hit them there. And as the enemy is moving, keep in mind that if he moves his arm in any way, you might just miss the weak spot because, well, he moved his arm and you hit the armor instead. I think I will have to do another video on the armor weak spots because as the posture of the enemies have changed now with the latest update, that it is a little bit different on how you need to approach things. Now, as for his next point, kicks can easily kill you when walking into enemy's sword without them swinging will do ton of damage. Yes, walking into swords is generally a bad idea. Keep your distance, don't walk into the swords. I mean, if you walked into a sword, if it's sharp, yes, that will hurt you. Then again, if you had armor or any kind of clothing, yes, that wouldn't much hurt you. Honestly, yes. But still, don't walk into the swords. Why would you walk into the swords? My general tactic for this after the newest update is to actually use my offhand to remove their sword, and then I use my right hand or my main hand to deal some damage on their weak spots or just slash them, depending on if I play with physics or not. And kicks have never killed me, but I have been kicked far. They kicked me and I flew backwards quite a lot. I don't mean, does it mean that the kick itself kills him or that he get kicked and then he gets pushed and then he gets swarmed by the enemies? I don't know. Let's move on. Let's check out a positive review this time. I do like this positive one because the player has both reviewed the game and then played more, which shows that they do actually like the game. I'm really annoyed at when you see reviews on Steam that says, "Oh, great game." They played like maybe 2 hours and then they have like one more hour on in the game, even though many weeks has passed or days. Like this one, for example, this was posted on the 17th of April, but the player had 7.5 hours at review time, but now has 26. But let's go into it. Super fun game that gets a lot of updates and attention from its developers. My boyfriend got it as a gift for me after I was watching a friend play it, and I'm just loving it. I'm absolutely digging the direction of this game and what it offers currently. I couldn't be happier with this. From the silly to the actual legitimate swordplay, I think this game will set a standard for sword games in VR very soon. Now, I, as a fan of Swordsman VR, I think it's wonderful to see this kind of response. Do I agree with it? Yes, most of it. Uh, I'm not sure how about the game will set a standard for swords games. This, don't get me wrong, the swordplay in Swordsman VR is absolutely feels like almost many steps ahead of other things I played on the PlayStation VR. I'm not sure for PC as I have not played any PC swordsman or sword playing games, unfortunately. And I have not played Golem actually on PlayStation VR. They say that the game is very good as well. I do really agree with the first line she writes. Gets a lot of updates and attention from its developers, which is very true, as we have gotten plenty of updates throughout these, 2 years now, or soon to be 2 years that the game has been out. And digging the direction of the game, yes, I really do like the game, where the game is heading. I couldn't be happier with this. Well, I personally, there are a few things that I could certainly. There's still bugs that annoy me that has been there for quite a while, but I'm still loving the game. Now, let's move on to the next review. This negative review is almost annoying to me in some aspects actually, because, quote, horribly unbalanced. Enemies kill you with the slightest of touches, but take an abhorrent amount of wailing on before they die. Are you playing with armor physics? If so, wailing on them is not the way to go. And kill you with the slightest of touches? Are you using armor? Have you upgraded your health? Uh, sure, yes, you can die in just 2 hits if you don't play safe at times. So take care of that. I mean, this is one of those Dark Souls kind of things are very apparent here. Get good, you know, because if you're playing with, get to know the enemy, get to know their attacks, and get to know their weak spots. Go for it. The game barely registers slashing attacks, and if you swing too fast, the sword bugs out, and suddenly you're swinging nothing. That has happened. To be fair to this reviewer, yes, that has happened to me as well. The game barely registers slashing has happened, but that was quite a while ago. This was posted on 24th of June, so could be the case. I don't know, because this is also on PC, which might have completely different bugs than on the PlayStation VR. But yeah, just skipping past that because there could be bugs that I don't have. Enemies spam attacks to the point it's frustrating to try and block or parry, and they give you virtually no window to attack back before spamming a flurry of attacks again. Now, first of all, if I never thought of the enemies to be spamming attacks, and if you block an attack or you go for an offensive, they might just retreat back, which does break their attack. It breaks their momentum. So that will actually break their spamming, as you try to call it, or as you call it. Mm, because, or even hitting them, just hitting them, even if you hit them on the armor, if you're playing with armor physics, will make them back off or flinch a little bit, if you're lucky enough. They don't flinch every time you stab them or hit them, so yeah. Trying to stab is hard but plausible, however you have to aim far away from the enemy to actually hit them. I have no issue achieving the same result in Blade and Sorcery. To me that says that Blade and Sorcery is easy or easier and the AI is more stupid, honestly. But yes, trying to stab is hard, especially if you're aiming for the face, as the enemy do dodge. They do move their head, they do jump backwards and so on. And yes, I do have encountered some bugs where you stab and the head becomes almost rubber, so you almost bounce off the enemy's head. So yes, that is a thing as well, and I do have sympathy for that. If that happens to this player often. I hate that one as well. But I never felt that I have to aim far away from the enemy to actually hit them. But I do sudden moves, I mean quick moves towards. If I want to stab, I have one hand up for defense and one hand that I do for the stabbing. And generally that works quite well. Also take in mind that if the enemy steps back, they won't step back again most often, but they might go into offensive after stepping back. So take care of that if you want to try to stab them after they've stepped back. Now, next thing, with armor detection turned on, try to stab unarmored section felt like a slog, and most of the time the game wouldn't detect that I've pierced an unarmored part. I have encountered this as well, though I generally do not try to actually stab unarmored parts. I rely on slashing the hands or the elbow most of the time, or stabbing the face or hitting them in the face or head if they have no helmet or no face mask. That is the way to go for me at least. So yes, armor fixes makes it harder, and stabbing isn't the best way to go because stabbing an unarmored part, I mean, imagine the enemy just moving slightly, that might make you hit a armored part. So yeah, stabbing is not the way to go with armor physics on, I would say. I would wait for an update to rectify these issues, however I frankly have no idea how long this could take. So in its current state it's almost completely unplayable, with the issue of a hit detection not registering, the ridiculous health bars enemies have, and the constant attack spam. I cannot recommend this to anyone. Honestly, save your money and just get Blade and Sorcery instead. They're practically the same price. That is true, they are practically the same price, but they're not practically the same game, honestly. I haven't played Blades and Sorcery, full disclosure. I haven't not played Blades and Sorcery, but I have seen gameplay, plenty of gameplay from the game, so I wouldn't call them the same kind of game. They're both sword swinging and combat focused, yes, but Swordsman is more of arena slash wave, kind of, where shall we say, they aim for realism, while in Blade and Sorcery, the AI seem to be more stupid and just go for it. They're almost like a tower defense. Like, just don't care about what's in their way. They're just gonna rush you. Kind of like the zombies in the Swordsman VR Horde mode, actually. As for the issues this player has, yeah, there could be bugs that I don't know about on the PC version. Again, so, but I still wouldn't call this unplayable, and ridiculous health bars of enemies, I have not seen anything of that. And the attack spam, nope, nothing like that. Moving on to the next. Now this video has become a little bit longer than I expected, but I will take a look at Steam reviews maybe another time as well, but let's end this on a positive note with one last positive review. Let's see here. As someone who fights with swords in real life, I feel like they kinda dropped the ball on the realism. I really like the armor physics, and parrying a blow has more impact here than in other games, but even with the AI update, the AI just feels stiff. The armor may have physics, but the AI themselves don't. Shield bashing does nothing, and the AI can jump forward and clip past your shield. At first this was frustrating, but all it took was learning the timing. Two-handling swords is almost impossible since it's slow and the AI can knock aside your sword with just a flick. Using a shield for the first boss does nothing since he can just power through. It was an interesting challenge trying to figure out a workaround since there isn't a way to brace aside from using your sword as the shield and your shield as the brace. I feel like I should be able to divert the force to the side, and as a habit I keep trying. I think we should get the same armor physics as the AI since I think it would be cool to block a strike with my bracer. That and your character is squishy until you get the end game armor. I did a bit of experimenting and found punching the AI in the face can stagger them, but every so often. Hitting them with the pommel doesn't work, so devs can this be a thing? Let's see. Bit of a positive and negative in this one. It was posted on June 16, and he has played 4.6 hours at the review time and about 1 hour more after that. So that is a little bit disappointing with that, honestly. Uh, a few hours at the review time, but that is fine. 4.6 is nice, is good enough, I would say. To in that time, you can actually go through all the bosses and the enemies. I will say this: he does bring up some good points, but at the same time, there are things that I would disagree with. Like, I really like the armor physics, and parry blow has more impact here than in other games. I can believe that, and I do agree with that. And the AI just feels stiff. Yes, I do agree with that as well. They can be very stiff at times. Uh, Sometimes when I do attack, they do feel like they're actually responding to my swings as they have lifted or moved their legs and head and jumped backwards and actually blocked with their sword. So they do feel more alive now than previously. But the armor may have physics, but the AI themselves don't. Shield bashing does nothing, and the AI can jump forward and clip past your shield. Bashing, I haven't. To me, that works fine. But yes, they can jump forward and clip past your shield. Yes, they can do that. I haven't seen much of that lately, but because the AI seem to be more not passive, but like they're more timing based, or they actually do take care of not going inside of you unless you push forward. Uh, and he does bring up a very good point that I think some of the negative reviewers need to take care of or need to get into their heads, if I may be so blunt. Uh, he says, at first this was frustrating, but all it took was learning the timing. That is an important thing. Learning. But I, I'm not sure about this one. Two-handling sword is almost impossible since it's slow and the AI can knock aside your sword with just a flick. Yes, they can knock aside your sword, but isn't you can do that in real life as well, don't you? I mean, sure, if you're very stiff with your sword and really bracing for it, sure, flicking away your sword would be more difficult, or the enemy's sword, if they're really holding on to that sword. But I have never had a problem with using two swords. if anything, I found it more comfortable than using a shield, but that's of course up to personal preference. But I don't think two swords is slow. I never thought it was being slow, actually. That one is a bit weird to me, actually. Okay, moving through here. Using a shield for the first boss does nothing, he can just power through. That one is interesting because I have not noticed that, but it's been a while since I did the first boss, so that could be very true. I have to check that out actually. And he just after that he makes an excellent point again. It was an interesting challenge trying to figure out a workaround since there isn't a way to brace aside from using your sword as a shield and your shield as the brace. I'm not 100% sure what he means by that last part. Using your sword as the shield, yeah, blocking with your sword, and your shield as the brace. I don't know what he's bracing against. I haven't felt like the bosses can go power through my block with a sword, actually. But he does make the point of interesting challenge trying to figure out a workaround instead of some negative reviewers who are, oh, it's impossible, I've died so many times. Find a way through. I mean, I've died plenty of times to the bosses. I found a way through. I leveled up more, I got more hit health, uh, more strength and so on, and then I learned patterns and then I defeated them. Too bad I can't say the same for Elden Ring. Oh well. Mm, let's see. And there was one thing here. Yes, I think we should get the same arm physics as the AI since I think it would be cool to block a strike with my bracers or bracer. Yes, I would love to see us getting the same kind of armor physics as the AI. And you could make that a modifier as that does make the game much easier. But yes, that would be awesome to have that. But yes, that's it for this video. I've been Swippin92. Have a great life and I hope to see you in future videos. And what are your thoughts on Swordsman VR? Let me know in the comments. Bye bye.